Hello, this is the Watchdog, and welcome back to Fun with Watches. If watches weren't fun, you'd only need one. Today we're going to review the Aragon Divemaster 2. Let's start out with the wrist check. I'm wearing my Casio G-Shock GD350, and Grogo's wearing my Armortron BJ3407 Griffey. I asked Grogu if he heard about the new Tudor Black Bay GMT two-tone. He said no, he must be two-tone deaf. Alright, here's the watch. It comes in this nice clamshell box, and it has this big old pillow inside. So we'll take it off the pillow here. And I don't know if you saw my unboxing, but it comes with this instruction manual. And I got the extra 2 links I removed from the bracelet. And here's the receipt from Aragon. I ordered this directly from them. Put the box away. And here it is. This is the first Aragon watch on my channel. I have seen their ads many a time and browsed through their website. Their website can be somewhat overwhelming as they have quite a large selection of watches. I reached out to Aragon and asked for a review watch, but I received no response. A simple no thank you would have been nice. So I went ahead and decided to buy a watch anyway, and so I chose their Divemaster 2 line as they were the most affordable at $99. They are also the largest as they come in 45 and 50 millimeters. I chose the 45, and I'm glad I did because the 45 is large enough as it is. A 50 would have been way too large. They have many colorways, and I chose blue with a red second hand because it reminds me just a little bit of a blue Rolex Yachtmaster with the red second hand and steel bezel. But in no way is this an homage to that Yachtmaster. The watch is 44.9 millimeters at the bezel, 49.8 millimeters lug to lug, but 57.9 if you count the protruding male end links. It is 16.3 millimeters thick if you don't measure the Cyclops, has a 22 millimeter lug width, and weighs 226 grams with 2 links removed, which was too heavy for my little scale. I had to weigh it on my kitchen scale. The unidirectional coning edge bezel is a brushed steel with the markings engraved into the bezel. The bezel is fully loomed, as you will see in a later Lume test. It is a full 120 clicks, and the action is quite stiff. You got to get a pretty good grip on it, and it takes quite a bit of effort to move it. But the clicks are solid, and there's no back play, and everything lines up just nice. So there it is, lines up just nice, and it's a nice bezel. It's just very stiff. The deep blue dial has a nice sunburst effect. We have the Aragon name up top, then it says Divemaster, but there's no mention that this is a Divemaster 2. On the bottom it says automatic, and then it says professional, and then it gives the 200 meters water resistance. It does not say divers anywhere on the dial because this is not an ISO 6425 certified watch. Then we have applied loomed indices with batons at the 6, 9, and 12. And if you look at right next to the date, there's a little mini index next to the date. The hands are skeleton with 2 cutouts at the base, and then the 2 sections on the tip are loomed. I think it would have been better if they would have loomed the whole thing. You don't really need skeleton hands on a non-chronograph. You're not going to be covering anything up. Then the red second hand has a loomed lollipop counterbalance instead of a lollipop tip. And then the date window has a red frame, and there's a Cyclops, and it's a pretty good magnification there. You can really see the date well. There's a sign screw down crown, has the Aragon logo there, and it pops nicely when unscrewed. Most NH35 watches do that. And it has good thread action when you screw it back down. You don't really feel a lot of
thread resistance or anything. It's a nice thread action.
The crystal is something that Aragon calls K1. It is supposed to be more scratch resistant than glass, but not as expensive as sapphire. I am not going to intentionally scratch the crystal to find out, but as you can see through it just fine. There seems to be no real serious reflection issues. The case is a solid stainless steel that is brushed everywhere. The lugs are very thick, but they slope down pretty good, so it helps this big watch conform to the wrist. The screw down case back is a display case back.
The case back says Wing Engineered. Wing Lang is the chief engineer and owner, CEO of Aragon watches, and he must have designed every one of their watches. And then it gives the NH35 24 joules Japan movement, and then gives the 200 meters of water resistance. It also says Aragon Divemaster on the back.
Most of us are familiar with the NH35, but in case you are just getting into watches, the NH35 is the go-to automatic workhorse movement of watches in this price range. It is a 3 Hz movement that hand winds and hacks with a bidirectional rotor and a 40-hour power reserve. The tolerance is quite wide, but most NH35s are fairly accurate right off the shelf, but does not have the consistency of a higher end movement. I can show it to you in the Timegrapher, but there is no guarantee that the watch you get will run exactly as this watch runs. Here it is on the Timegrapher. Normally I put a cleaning cloth between my watch where I mount it on the Timegrapher to protect it from scratches. But this Aragon is so big and chunky, I couldn't do that because it wasn't picking it up right. But as you can see, it's running a bit fast, about 13 seconds, which isn't horrible. At least it's running fast and not slow. Once again, this is an NH35, so what you get should be pretty good, but it won't be exactly what I'm getting right now.
The solid stainless steel bracelet has solid end links, and it is a fully articulating bracelet. As you can see, the center links are not fixed to the side links. There is no taper to this bracelet. It keeps its 22 millimeters width all the way to the clasp, which is good though, because this bracelet needs to be heavy to help counter the weight of the rather large watch head. The side links also slope up, which gives it a unique look. It doesn't look like your typical oyster style clasp because of that slope. And it has push pin adjusters and not screw pin adjusters. I'm perfectly fine with push pin adjusters. I think it's a little bit easier. Sometimes when you have screw pins, it's very difficult to get a tiny screwdriver in there, and sometimes you can screw up the pins and strip them. And if you strip them really bad, then you've permanently ruined it. Where a push pin, if you break a push pin, you can just get another push pin. The sign clasp is your basic press safety clasp with a push button and 3 holes of micro adjust. The clasp is nothing special, but it does the job, and at least it's signed. I wish it had 4 holes of micro adjust though. A watch this heavy really needs the perfect fit.
Here's the watch on my 7.5 inch wrist. As you can see, it's a big chunky watch, but thankfully those lugs slope down pretty good, so it conforms to the wrist. I just wish the case back was a bit thinner, and that would sit a little bit flatter. I'm not going to show it to you on any other straps. A watch this big and heavy, you really need the bracelet to counteract the weight. If I put this on a NATO, it would be so top heavy. Here we are in the Lume room. Since this watch has a fully Lume bezel, we're going to give it a full 20-minute test. So it looks like we have BGW9 blue Lume on the bezel and green C3 Lume on the dial. As we speed up the time, the bezel Lume is doing quite well. The dial Lume is a mixed bag. The batons fade almost immediately, but the dots are much better. Fortunately, the minute hand is the strongest thing on the dial, which is important for a dive watch because the minute hand works with the bezel for timing dives. What do I like about this watch? I like the deep blue dial with the red second hand. I think that's a really good look. I like the fact that it's solidly built. I mean, this thing does not feel cheap at all. And I like the fact that it has a fully lume bezel. And I like the fact that it has a fully articulating bracelet and the center links are not fixed to the side links. What are my gripes and groans? Only 3 holes of micro adjust, really stiff bezel action, and maybe if they would drop the display case back, because you don't need to see a NH35 anyway, they could have made it maybe a millimeter thinner, and then it would have sat on the wrist a lot better and not be quite so chunky. Do I recommend this watch? This is a really good, solidly built watch for the $99 I paid. But this is a very big and heavy watch. I don't mind a big watch, and I enjoyed my time with this Aragon. So if you like or don't mind big, heavy watches, then go for it. But if you don't like big, heavy watches, or if you have a very small wrist, then there is nothing here to win you over. You might want to spend a little bit more on one of Aragon's similar watches that are a little bit smaller. I am happy with this Aragon and will probably review another in the future. Well, thank you for watching my review of the Aragon Divemaster 2, and I will be back with another unboxing. I got more stuff coming from AliExpress. Bye.